There is a silent contract we sign with life every single day, not with ink, not with ceremony, but with the choices we accept and the standards we settle for. Most people think suffering comes from failure, but more often it comes from acceptance of less than what we're capable of, less than what we deserve, less than who we are meant to become. You become what you tolerate. And most people tolerate mediocrity. They don't complain about the job they hate because the paycheck arrives on time. They don't speak up in the relationship that drains them because it's better than being alone. They don't pursue the dream because the routine feels safer. And every time they stay silent, settle, or shrink, the world takes note. Life mirrors back not what we wish for, but what we accept. Look around. The greatest achievers in history, from Abraham Lincoln to Steve Jobs, weren't born on golden thrones. They were forged in fire. They were surrounded by people who told them number. Life gave them closed doors, failure, bankruptcy, betrayal, but they refused to tolerate anything less than greatness. Lincoln failed in business, failed in politics, buried his children, and walked through deep valleys of depression, but he never tolerated the idea that he was done. He rose not because of what life gave him, but because of what he refused to accept. There comes a moment in every life where we must draw a line in the sand and say, "This is no longer acceptable. I will not sleepwalk through my one and only shot at life. I will raise my standards, and I will rise with them." You see, high standards are not about ego. They are about alignment with who you really are, with who you were meant to be before the world taught you to shrink. Every breakthrough begins not with motivation, but with intolerance. The fire begins the moment you say enough. Enough of the excuses, enough of the waiting, enough of living beneath your potential. That's the spark. That's when a new life is born. Most people are asking for more success, more love, more respect. But life is asking you back. What are you willing to demand from yourself? Because you don't get what you want, you get what you believe you deserve. And your actions prove it. What's in your life right now is a direct reflection of what you've tolerated. That's not a punishment, it's power. Because if you built this reality through your standards, then you can build a new one through your standards too. Let's talk about mindset. Not the Instagram quotes, not the slogans. I mean the mindset that governs your entire operating system, the deep, unshakable belief that you are not here to merely exist. You are here to create, to lead, to shape your world by shaping yourself. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." It wasn't a metaphor, it was the blueprint. Because belief is the architect of behavior. Your life bends to your level of belief like metal under heat. If you believe that life is hard and unfair, you will find proof. If you believe that no matter what happens, you will rise, you will create that reality, one courageous action at a time. And this isn't just philosophy, it's physics. Your brain filters the world through your beliefs. It sees what it expects to see. It builds what it's told is possible. But you can rewire that. You're not a victim of your thoughts. You are the engineer of your beliefs. And belief is the seed. Action is the water. Results are the fruit. But most people never get past the seed. They keep waiting for perfect soil, perfect weather, perfect timing. But the truth is, success blooms in chaos, in uncertainty, in mess. You've just got to start moving. Clarity doesn't come before action, it's born from it. The fog doesn't lift until you take the first step. The path doesn't appear until you start walking. Too many people are stuck in someday. Someday, I'll start. Someday, I'll change. But here's the brutal truth. Someday is a lie. It's a mirage, a trap. There is no someday. There's only now. And what you do now determines who you become. You see, vision is oxygen for the soul. Without it, you suffocate in routine. But when your vision is clear, when you see the life that's possible, not just the life you've inherited, then every setback becomes a stepping stone. Every struggle becomes fuel. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Do you understand the poetry in that? The man who built $1 billion empire from pure imagination was once told he had none. But here's the difference. He didn't accept it. He didn't let someone else's definition become his identity. And that's what separates legends from spectators. They don't tolerate smallness, not in their dreams, not in their actions, and not in the voices around them. And if you want to rise, you have to demand more, not from the world, but from yourself. More discipline, more vision, more action in the face of fear, more refusal to settle for average. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you can be. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but it is divine. Discipline is saying yes to your future, even when your feelings scream no. The gym you didn't feel like going to, the call you were scared to make, the book you didn't want to read. Those small, unseen victories are what build empires. Not one act of greatness, but 1,000 moments of alignment. Discipline is love in action. Love for your future. Love for your purpose. And every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're sending a message to life itself. I am ready. But you will be tested, not once, not twice, constantly. Life doesn't hand you greatness. It makes you earn it. And it does that by throwing storms your way not to break you, but to reveal you. Because you don't know who you are until everything's on the line. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before the light bulb glowed. 10,000 times. And when someone asked him if he felt like a failure, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not just persistence, that's identity. He didn't see failure as something that happened to him. He saw it as something happening for him. Each failure refined him, sharpened him, pushed him closer to mastery. But that only happens when you refuse to tolerate anything less than your vision. You don't beg for your dreams. You build them, brick by brick, choice by choice. And every brick says one thing: I will not live a life of regret, because there is a cost to tolerating too little. You might not feel it today, but you'll feel it one day. When you look back and realize you didn't run out of time, you ran out of courage. And that, right there, is the tragedy. Not that people fail, but that they succeed at surviving. That they go through life not crashing, not flying, just floating, drifting from one month to the next, clapping for others from the sidelines, applauding dreams they never gave themselves permission to chase. Because somewhere along the way, they accepted the lie. The lie that says, this is just how life is. No, it isn't. This is how life becomes when you stop demanding more from it. This is what happens when you trade your fire for comfort, your roar for routine, your power for peacekeeping. But let me tell you something no one else will. The world does not reward people who shrink themselves. It rewards those who expand unapologetically, who walk into the room and bring a vision so bold that it makes people uncomfortable. Not because they're arrogant, but because they're awake. And that level of aliveness, it demands something from you. It asks for presence, for intensity, for ownership. Because purpose isn't found, it's forged. Not in meditation huts, not in 10-step plans, but in the furnace of life, where you fall, bleed, rise again, and realize you are not fragile. You are fire. To demand more from your life, you must first demand more from your purpose. Ask not, what do I want? Ask, what was I born to build, to give, to fight for? Andrew Carnegie didn't become the richest man in the world because he wanted money. He became that because he wanted impact. He believed in building a future that lasted beyond himself. That's what gave his wealth meaning. That's what gave his hours fire. He wasn't chasing status. He was chasing significance. And that's what most people miss. They set goals with numbers, with timelines, but not with meaning. And a goal without meaning is just another task on a to-do list. It doesn't wake you up at 5 a.m. It doesn't make you push when the world says quit. But when your why is deep, your how becomes inevitable. And yet, Even with purpose, the path is not paved in gold. It's paved in sweat. It's paved in rejection. It's paved in days when no one claps, no one believes, and no one sees what you're becoming. That's where you meet your real self. Not in celebration, in silence. In the quiet mornings where you show up anyway. In the long nights where the only thing louder than doubt is your resolve. And that resolve must be built daily, through action, not emotion. Too many people are waiting to feel ready. Let me tell you something that will set you free. You will never feel ready to become someone you've never been. Readiness is a myth. Movement is truth. You become ready by becoming the person who moves anyway. So get uncomfortable. Be the one who dares. The one who says, I will raise the standard in my habits, in my thinking, in the way I show up when no one's watching. And yes, people will resist. Not just strangers. People close to you. Because when you rise, you reflect their excuses back at them. When you demand more, you challenge their comfort. And some will try to pull you back not out of malice, but out of fear. That's okay. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be true. True to the calling. True to the fire. True to the version of you that exists beyond limitation. And as you rise, something beautiful happens. You stop being a slave to motivation. You start being powered by identity. I do this because I am this. That's the language of transformation. That's how you go from dabbling to dominating, from trying to embodying, because no one becomes world-class by doing just enough. No one leaves a legacy by hitting the minimums. Greatness has always belonged to those who over-deliver, not once, but as a way of life. That's what discipline really is. It's not suffering, it's sacred. It's the daily devotion to the version of you that's waiting on the other side of your laziness. And when you live that way, the world shifts. Doors open, energy rises, because life aligns with those who align with themselves. But even then, it's not linear. You will stumble. You will face betrayal, burnout, heartbreak. People will misunderstand you. Life will humble you. And in those moments, you must become your own sanctuary. That's when you lean into resilience. The quiet muscle that no one sees, but everyone respects. Resilience is not about bouncing back. It's about bouncing forward with deeper wisdom, sharper focus, and unbreakable faith. Nelson Mandela said, I never lose. I either win or I learn. That is the mindset of giants. Not avoiding failure, redefining it. Seeing every defeat not as a tombstone, but as a cornerstone. And what allows that? Gratitude. Gratitude is not just a feel-good practice, it's a warrior's weapon. It grounds you. It sharpens you. Because when you can be grateful, even in the storm, you take your power back. Gratitude says, I'm not here by accident, I'm not broken, I'm becoming. And from that place, no loss can destroy you. No delay can derail you. You become a force, a presence. Not just someone who wants more, but someone who embodies more. And the world doesn't know what to do with someone like that. It either follows or gets out of the way. So the question is no longer, what do you want from life? The real question is, what will you no longer tolerate? Because change doesn't begin when you add something new. It begins when you refuse to carry the old, the identity that plays small, the mindset that waits for permission, the voice that says, this is good enough. Burn it. Burn it like Cortez burned his ships, because retreat is no longer an option. Because going back to the old life is no longer an escape route. Because the old life is what made you feel dead inside in the first place. You want rebirth? You want fire in your lungs and thunder in your chest? Then raise your standards until they terrify you, until they demand more courage than you think you have. And then meet yourself there. No one can raise them for you. Not your parents, not your partner, not your boss. This is the work of self-respect. That's what this is really about, not just success. Dignity. The dignity of looking yourself in the mirror and knowing I gave this life everything. I didn't flinch. I didn't fold. I showed up. Because here's the truth most avoid. If you don't design your standards, the world will design them for you. And the world has no interest in your greatness. It wants you numb, predictable, quiet. It will feed you dopamine and distractions until your dream is just a whisper in a room full of noise. But not you. Not anymore. Because now you know. You become what you tolerate. And you're done tolerating less. Done tolerating people who drain your energy and call it love. Done tolerating systems that cage your brilliance and call it security. Done tolerating a voice in your head that whispers limitation and calls it logic. Because now you're choosing differently. You're choosing alignment over approval, discomfort over stagnation, truth over convenience. And that choice, it echoes. It echoes in your health, in your income, in your relationships. Because everything in your external world is responding to the standards you set internally. You want better, friends? Be the kind of person who raises the room just by walking in. You want better opportunities? Prepare in silence until life has no choice but to notice. You want respect? Respect yourself in the dark when no one else is watching. That's the difference. People think success is public, but success is private. It's what you choose in moments of temptation, distraction, and doubt. It's what you do when the applause stops and the doubt starts. That's when champions are born. Not on stage, in the silence. And still, even with all this, you'll have to adapt. Because life will test every belief you claim to hold. Not to break you, but to see if you're serious. And when it does, you have to pivot without panicking. Adapt without abandoning your vision. Darwin never said the strongest survive. He said the most adaptable do. Because when life shifts, you shift with it not by lowering your standards, but by finding new ways to meet them. And that's mastery. That's what separates the committed from the curious. Curious people dabble when it's easy. Committed people become the standard. So deeply that compromise is not even a thought, just a foreign language. And this isn't about being perfect. It's about being relentless. Because relentless people don't have more time, they just have fewer excuses. They don't wait for miracles, they become the miracle by showing others what's possible. And when you live like that, when you walk through the fire, not around it, when you do the hard thing, when no one claps, when you show the world what unshakable looks like, something amazing happens. You stop chasing, and you start attracting, not because of tricks, but because real power doesn't chase, it radiates. The world moves toward the one who knows who they are, who's decided what they will and will not accept. And now, that's you. You're not here to make peace with average. You're here to demand a life that makes your soul sing. To build something so real, so bold, so you, that when others see it, they remember who they were before the world told them to shrink. So burn the false agreements. Break the old contracts. Sign a new one today with your soul. A contract that says, I will not tolerate less. I will not kneel to fear. I will not dim for comfort. I will rise not when it's easy, but because I've decided it's time. You become what you tolerate, so demand more. From your mind, from your days, from your destiny. Because the world doesn't need another person playing it safe. It needs you, fully awakened, fully engaged, and fully alive. So now the path is clear. Not easy, not paved with comfort, but clear. And that's all you ever needed. Not a shortcut, not a guarantee, but clarity. Clarity that this life, this one life, responds not to your wishes, but to your will. There's a reason some rise while others sink. It's not just talent. It's not even just hard work. It's what they demand from every hour they breathe. Think of the giants before you. Leonardo da Vinci demanded more so. He mastered art, science, anatomy, invention. Nikola Tesla demanded more, and he gave us the current that powers our world. Oprah Winfrey demanded more, not from a world that tried to label her, but from the voice inside that whispered, "There is more, there is more, there is more." And she listened. So must you. Because your destiny doesn't live in the stars. It lives in the standards you hold when no one else does. It lives in the way you answer that voice, the one that says, "We were made for more than this." You want a revolution. It starts in the mirror, with a decision, with a stare that says, "No more half efforts, no more deluded dreams, no more tolerating the noise of the world over the truth of my soul." It starts when you look your excuses in the eye and evict them. Excuses don't belong in the life you're building. They don't serve the future you're becoming. They are relics of a version of you that used to accept less. But not anymore. Not now that you've seen it, the gap between who you are and who you could be. And yes, that gap should scare you. It should haunt you, because it is sacred. It is the birthplace of legacy. And once you feel that, you can't go back. You won't unsee it. You won't unfeel it. You'll walk different, speak different, think different. Not because you're trying to impress the world, but because you're honoring the contract you made with yourself. And that contract, it demands truth. It demands effort. It demands courage. Every single day. You'll show up when you're tired. You'll lead when no one follows. You'll persist when the road vanishes. And you'll keep going, not because you're superhuman, but because you've made one simple, unshakable decision. I will not tolerate a life unlived. And that decision, that fierce declaration to the universe, it changes everything. Suddenly, you're not the victim of your story. You are the author. You are the force. You are the one they'll write about one day. Not because you had the easiest road, but because you chose the higher road. The one paved with fire. The one paved with ownership. The one paved with unrelenting self-respect. And let me tell you something else. This world, it moves for those who demand more. Not in arrogance, but in truth. Because life recognizes power. It recognizes hunger. And when you move with conviction, you bend reality. Not by magic, but by alignment. By living so true to your values, your vision, your voice, that the world has no choice but to follow. And yes, you'll lose things. Comfort, old friends, your former identity. But what you gain? You gain you. The real you. The unshaken. The unlocked. The unstoppable. You gain mornings filled with purpose instead of dread. You gain nights that sleep in peace because the day was lived in truth. You gain moments real, vivid, electric that make the climb worth it. So ask yourself now, what are you still tolerating? Is it the job that numbs you? The fear that paralyzes you? The story that says, "I'm not enough"? Write this in your blood if you have to. You become what you tolerate, not what you dream of, not what you post about, what you allow to stay in your life. And the moment you decide to demand more honesty, more meaning, more intensity, more life, that's when everything begins to change. You weren't born to tiptoe. You were born to roar. So rise. Raise your standards so high they make people uncomfortable. Then live by them so fiercely you give others permission to do the same. And if anyone asks how you did it, look them in the eyes and say, "I stopped tolerating less. I stopped waiting. I demanded more. And life finally listened."